All right, let's dive into a huge economic mystery, one that's right at the heart of how the entire global economy works. We're talking about the incredible and sometimes controversial power of the US dollar. So here's the big question we're asking today. Is the US dollar so dominant that it's literally handcuffing other countries? Is it breaking a fundamental economic rule that's supposed to help them when their economies get into trouble? This is a massive debate, and the answer has some pretty serious consequences. Okay, so to really get this, we first need to understand the way things are supposed to work. The classic rulebook of economics that the dollar seems to be challenging. And this really gets to the heart of it. On the one hand, you've got the classic rule. It's a simple idea. If your currency gets cheaper, your stuff gets cheaper for everyone else to buy. Your exports should just boom. But here's the modern puzzle. What happens when all your goods are priced in US dollars? If that dollar price tag doesn't budge, does anyone even notice your currency got cheaper? That potential boom? Well, it might just be a bust. And this puzzle has led a lot of economists to one particular idea, the sticky price theory. It's this thing called dominant currency pricing, or DCP for short. The theory is pretty straightforward. Since so many things are bought and sold in dollars around the world, those dollar prices get kind of stuck. They're sticky. So when a country's own currency goes up or down, the dollar price tag on their exports stays the same. That crucial link in the economic chain, it seems to be broken. And look, this isn't just some dusty academic theory. This is a huge deal. You've got major players like the IMF saying, hey, if this is true, then our whole playbook might be wrong. It calls into question one of the main tools countries use to stabilize their economies in the first place. So let's walk through the logic step by step. A country's currency gets weaker. They're hoping, great, our stuff is now cheaper for the rest of the world. But wait, the price is in dollars, and that price hasn't changed. So from the buyer's perspective, there's no sale, no discount. So why would they buy more? It's like the economic gas pedal just isn't connected to the engine anymore. It sounds pretty convincing, right? It's a neat story. But is it actually true? Does it hold up when we look at the actual data from the real world? Let's do a little reality check. Because the research we're diving into today uncovers some fascinating facts that really throw a wrench in this whole sticky price idea. Okay, so this whole sticky price theory really hangs on two big assumptions. First, that the companies pricing in dollars are like mini monopolies. They have a ton of power to set prices. And second, that those dollar prices really are stuck in the mud, totally rigid. So let's test those assumptions. All right, fact number one, take a look at this. A massive chunk of what the world trades isn't unique, branded stuff. It's homogeneous goods. Think commodities, raw materials. And for developing economies, we're talking about a whopping 70% of their exports. These things are sold in super competitive markets, which totally blows a hole in that first assumption about monopoly power.
Now for fact number two. It turns out the type of good you're selling makes all the difference in how its price acts.
It's pretty intuitive when you think about it. The price of something like oil or wheat, it changes every single day, right? It's super flexible. But the price of, say, a new car or a piece of software, those prices are set for a while. They're sticky. This is just how these markets work. Okay, get ready for this, because fact number three is the real kicker. It completely flips the whole theory on its head. It turns out that those super competitive goods, the ones with the really flexible prices, those are the ones that are most often priced in US dollars.
And the data is just undeniable. There's a super strong link here. The more a country sells those commodity-type goods, the more likely they are to bill for them in dollars. So, wait a minute. Dollar pricing isn't happening with the sticky price monopoly-style products. It's happening with the flexible price super competitive ones. That's literally the opposite of what the theory predicted.
So if sticky prices aren't the villain here, then what is going on? Well, all this evidence points us in a totally different direction. It suggests we've been looking at the wrong side of the equation. This isn't a demand story. It's a supply story. This is the big shift in thinking. The old story told us the problem was demand, that buyers just weren't interested because prices were stuck. But this new evidence-based story, it says the real bottleneck is supply. It's about a country's actual physical ability to make and ship more stuff. Okay, so let's trace this new logic. Your currency gets cheaper. That means your costs, your labor, your materials are now lower when you measure them in dollars. So what do? In a really competitive market, you lower your dollar price just a little tiny bit to get an edge. But here's the magic. Because everyone is so price sensitive in these markets, that tiny little price cut unleashes a tidal wave of demand. Suddenly, everyone wants to buy from you. The problem isn't finding buyers anymore. The problem is, can we possibly make and ship this stuff fast enough? So let's go back to that car analogy. The problem isn't that the gas pedal is broken. It's that the engine is hitting its red line. When they step on the gas, the response is so powerful that they immediately run up against their physical limits. The constraint isn't a broken pedal, it's the size and power of the engine itself. Okay, so why do we care about all this? Why does this debate matter outside of an economics classroom? Well, because it completely changes how policymakers should be thinking about their economies. So, here are the big takeaways. First off, good news for central banks. That tool in your toolbox, it's not broken. Weakening your currency can absolutely still kickstart your exports. That also means that letting your exchange rate float is still a really good idea. It works as a shock absorber. And maybe the most subtle but important point, just because you see a dollar price that's not moving much, don't assume it's sticky. It might actually be a sign of a super efficient market where the real story is in the quantity being sold, not the price. You know, this whole thing is a great reminder that sometimes the most popular story isn't the whole story. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As the global economy keeps changing, what other big economic rules that we all take for granted might be due for a second look?